What's up, guys? Another loss for the Utah Jazz. I believe the Jazz, we look at their standings, are now right at 500. Let me just look. But let's talk about this game. The Jazz lose to the Atlanta Hawks. Trae Young goes off. It's the Hoops Nerd postgame show. Guys, before we get into this, let's just talk about our sponsor, Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com, use promo code HoopsNerd. You can get up to $100 matched when you sign up. That's $100 of free money. So if you want to go bet on Trae Young on the over against the Jazz, because the Jazz defense is the number 25 defense in the league, then you can go do that. You put $5, guess what? They give you $5. That's a $10 bet times 3. Done. Or if you went with the over on Mike Conley, with 8 assists again tonight, you would have hit on Prize Picks. So go to Prize Picks, use promo code HoopsNerd. It supports the channel. I would appreciate it very much. All right, like I said, Trae Young was really good tonight. And basically, this whole Raptors team, or not Raptors, played Raptors last game. The Hawks played a really nice game tonight against the Utah Jazz. Can you tell these games are running together? I'm ready for All-Star break. Are you kidding me? Let's bring up the score. Let's see. Let's bring up the display here. Let's make me smaller. All right, so the Utah Jazz lose to a pretty balanced Hawks offense. When this team is playing well, they're really good. I mean, we all know the story with the Hawks, the kind of dysfunction that's gone on with their coach, Trae Young, and kind of everything that comes with Trae Young, both the good and the bad. I mean, Trae Young tonight was really good, 10 for 19 from the field, although his three-point shot wasn't falling, but he's 27 points. 6 assists. He was a +8 for the game. Or a +4, when he's in the game. He's just a very, very dynamic offensive player. And honestly, the more the ball is in his hands, the better. He is able to create his own shot, or he's able to create open shots for other players. And so he will always be a dynamic offensive player for whoever has him on their team. Now, there's some downsides with Trae Young. One that just is very apparent. There is a bit of a personality thing that doesn't jive with many head coaches. He's had coaches fired, and he's now dealing with that with this current head coach as well. And also, there's just not a lot of defense that comes with Trae Young. It's going to be very difficult to have an elite defense with this Hawks team while Trae Young's on the floor. Now, it doesn't mean they can't have a good defense or like a top 10 or top 5. In fact, let's just look at where the Hawks are defense. So I pulled this up before. They're not in the top half. The Hawks sit at 18, which is actually pretty good because Trae Young is one of those players that you would likely switch and try to attack just because of the size. He's just not very big. And so if you can get a bigger player onto Trae Young, you're usually going to have a mismatch there that you can take advantage of. But being 18 defensively is pretty decent. I don't know if it's possible for the Hawks to get much higher. That's just really difficult. They did bring in DeJounte Murray. DeAndre Hunter brings nice size and defensive ability. So they do have nice defensive players. And I think John Collins over time is kind of, when he wants to, can be a really nice defender. And we know that Clint Capella can be, although I think he's kind of tapered off the last year or so. He's not quite at the level he was when they went to the Eastern Conference Finals. But anyways, it's an interesting team that can really score the ball. I think they do miss Kevin Huerter a lot. He was a really nice player for them. They replace him with DeJounte Murray, which is obviously a defensive upgrade, but he does not bring the shooting, and you can see it right there, that Kevin Huerter has. By the way, Kevin Huerter having just an incredible season with Sacramento, just absolutely shooting lights out. But sorry if that hurt any of your feelings. But what I do like about DeJounte Murray is he's kind of a Swiss Army knife player. He can do a lot of different things. He can score the ball. Tonight he didn't shoot well, but look at that, 8 assists. Can also rebound the ball, 5 rebounds. He's kind of like one of those triple-double threats every night. His length and size and what he does on the defensive end. He can do just a lot of different things, and he does pass the ball really well. DeAndre Hunter, if you'll remember, one of the things, and I thought this is interesting to me at least as a Jazz fan, but this Hawks team and this Jazz team it feels like they've had rumors and trade talks for years now. When the Jazz were in trade talks with the Knicks about trading Donovan Mitchell, we all heard the multiple talks about DeAndre Hunter, who the Jazz showed that they were interested in it. And we all know that the Jazz and Hawks have talked about, or at least the rumors have been out there about John Collins, and that the Jazz are indeed interested in John Collins. But the trade never seems to happen. And so it happened again this NBA trade deadline. And trade deadline's in like 6 days. So who knows, next Thursday, it may happen it may actually happen at some point. A trade actually comes, but it's just funny that these two teams have seemingly had multiple trade talks for a while and nothing ever happens. Anyways, DeAndre Hunter, who the Jazz last offseason eventually didn't trade for him, but DeAndre Hunter had a nice night tonight and kind of showed why the Jazz liked him. 10 for 15 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3. He also plays good defense. 26 points, 3 assists, 4 rebounds. These are the kind of flashes you see from DeAndre Hunter. If he can just stay healthy and kind of put more and more nights like this together, it's why this Hawks team has a chance to be really good. Because even though, like we said, Trae Young is not ever going to be, he's always going to be a defensive liability. If you have guys like DeAndre Hunter and DeJounte Murray that can hopefully hide him somewhat, you can have a nice defense in the playoffs. And if you've got a good head coach in the playoffs, hopefully they can find out ways to hide Trae Young defensively while also using him on the offense. And then when DeAndre Hunter and DeJounte Murray are playing well offensively, this Hawks team has a chance. Right now, they're now 17, so 27-26. They're above 500. With this win tonight, they beat out the Jazz. The Jazz now sitting at 720. All right, that's all I got for the Hawks. Let's talk about the Utah Jazz. This game, and I wrote about it on SLC Dunk. You can go read what I wrote there on the post game. But it's not surprising that this Jazz team has so many close games, whether it's wins or losses. It feels like these games are really close. And we've talked about this multiple times if you follow the show. But look at this. The Utah Jazz are still number 3 offensively in the NBA. Pretty incredible. They've actually surpassed the Boston Celtics, who are now number 4. Remember how everyone at the beginning of the year was talking about the Boston Celtics being this just out of this world offense, and they were? Well, now the Jazz's consistency has kept them, and now they are above. That's kind of wild, actually. They are now number 3, Boston number 4. Look at that. Denver is now number 1 offense in the NBA. Pretty wild. And the Sacramento Kings at number 2. Who'd have guessed this would have been the top 3 offenses in the NBA last year after the Jazz made the trades after trading away Donovan Mitchell and Royce O'Neal and all those shooters and Bojan Bogdanovic and all those offensive players that everyone talked about the Jazz absolutely needing, and the Jazz have a better offense than last year by far. Some of this may be, you could argue, well, addition by subtraction. Maybe, Rudy Gobert was a good offensive player in that he was super efficient, and the Jazz usually were up in the top, 5 to 8 last year with Rudy Gobert and his offensive rebounding, his efficiency at the rim, and then the shooting around him was a formula that was successful offensively, at least during the regular season. This year, it's much more dynamic offense in that it's much more malleable. More actions are happening, more spread. You've got different looks that the Jazz run, so they'll have like a 5-out offense that they did a lot more at the beginning of the year before the emergence of Walker Kessler. You would have, Kelly Olynyk, Vanderbilt, and all these players spread out, and it was opening things up, and it's a big reason why the Jazz are up here on the offense on the. I lost the ability to talk there for a moment. Just at the top here of the offensive rankings. I'm kind of curious. The other reason is this right here. Look at this. The Jazz are number 6 in offensive rebound percentage. Look at this. This is another reason why the Jazz offense is so efficient, is they crash the glass. Another thing you could have talked to us last year about and said, hey, with this Utah Jazz team, if I told you this Utah Jazz team will trade away Rudy Gobert, will trade away Donovan Mitchell, they'll trade away Bojan Bogdanovic, and they will be the number 3 offense in the NBA right around All-Star break, and they will also be the number 6 offensive rebounding team in the league, and that's with Jordan Clarkson and Mike Conley starting. I mean, would anyone believe that? Not me. I thought the Jazz were going to win 18 games this year. I was wrong. Very wrong. And it's basically because Will Hardy is incredible. The Jazz upgraded at head coach at an incredible way, partly because of the system and he's been able to bring out the best in all these players. Now, you have to give credit to these players who have absolutely just turned themselves into there's so many players on this team that have become such big stories. The biggest one, obviously, is Lauri Markkanen, who gets his all-star nod. Tonight, it wasn't a great shooting night. 3 for 11 from 3, 8 for 19 from the field, 25 points, 10 rebounds. It makes me want to rewatch the game just to see the effect that maybe DeAndre Hunter had on Markkanen, or if it was just a bad shooting night. I didn't see. But probably the biggest surprise, the other biggest surprise for this Jazz team is Walker Kessler. And this right here might be the big reason the Jazz lost this game, is Walker Kessler kind of hit that rookie wall, at least tonight, where he takes just 2 shots, he scores 2 points, 5 rebounds, 1 block, but he only plays 17 minutes. He's the thing that's been impressive about Walker Kessler is that he has had so few of these types of nights. He's had them. He'll have like one of these every like 4th game where it's just like, he'll go out and put up a 20-20 like he did earlier, and then he'll have a night like this where he goes up against, Clint Capella, and for whatever reason, he really struggled tonight. And so, this is part of the development for Walker Kessler. It's a reminder he's still a rookie. I think all of us look at Walker Kessler and just all the great things he's doing, and we forget that this is a rookie. These are like the first time he's playing against, and I can't remember. I believe the Jazz already played the Hawks once or twice this year, but he has not played these players a lot. There's different looks that he's seeing, and maybe he's seeing teams adjust to him too for the first time. Whereas he was new, no one really knew who he was at the beginning of the year. Now teams may be adjusting, and that's something that's going to help him grow. That's just part of being a rookie, and why it's so nice that he's getting these minutes. The more minutes he gets, the better, because the quicker he can just acclimate. And sometimes, honestly, developing in the NBA, there's 2 things that go on. One, you learn what you can and can't do. And that is sometimes the hardest thing for NBA rookies, NBA players, when they come into the league, because their whole lives, they've been the best player on the floor. They've been able to get whatever they want because they're usually bigger, faster, stronger than everyone else on the floor just because of their physical talent. Well, you get in the NBA and everyone's just as big as you, everyone's just as fast as you, if not faster and bigger, and also more skilled. And all of a sudden you have to find out, like, hey, that thing I could do in college because the guy guarding me was 5'11". I can't really do that anymore because the guy guarding me now is 6'4" and he's built like a truck. And so players have to understand what they can do and what they can't do, and then they work on their strengths and they try to improve on their weaknesses. Most players that stay in the NBA are able to just improve on their strengths, and they can find a niche in the league because they can do this thing, that thing. With Walker Kessler, it's block shots, rebounds, and he finishes at the rim. Just those 3 things alone make him a really nice player. But Walker Kessler has some weaknesses. One of those is just inexperience. And 2, there's times where he takes fakes and he needs to learn when to take the fake and when not to. He's probably going to have to learn to be stronger and play stronger, stay on the floor, things like that. There's just things that he has to learn that are weaknesses. But what makes a star player in this league is not necessarily the player that can improve on their strengths, because most players have pretty similar strengths, and most players can get to a point where they can do a lot of different things to stay in the league. The guys that become superstars are the guys that improve their weaknesses. Like the guys that can add to their game and then implement it when they play. Those are the guys that really become stars in this league. And it's why we're seeing Lauri Markkanen turn into an absolute star. He's learning how to demand the ball. He's learning how to score. And he always knew how to, but in a lot of ways, I look at Lauri Markkanen as a confidence thing. And we know that Lauri Markkanen also dealt with injuries, so that might have also kind of been related to the confidence, I guess. But anyways, those players that improve on their weaknesses every year become stars and get big contracts. They just do. And players that don't improve don't stay in the league. They're out. Let's see. I think I wanted to mention too, and we were talking about the offense and defense. So anyways, it shouldn't be surprising, like on a night tonight, that the Jazz have another close game. It seems like every single game this year for the Jazz has been close. The Jazz just have not been blown out. I think that maybe 1 or 2 times. Honestly, you count the times on one hand. You might be able to count it on like 2 fingers. But really, it really just comes down to the offense and defense of this Jazz team. You look at this Jazz team; they are the number 3 offense, and we've already talked about this. Remarkable, but This team is kind of Two-Face from Batman because you go to the defensive rating, they're not top 5. They are the number 25 defense in the NBA. They have a top 5 offense, but they're bottom 5 defense. And so, the Jazz will get leads against teams, but the problem is that if they get cold at a certain point in the game, their defense is so bad that other teams are able to catch up. And the same goes for a night like tonight, where the Jazz were, honestly, they were down by like 10 to 15 points. I can't remember exactly what it was, but they're always able to come back because the offense is so good. So it's this balancing act that the Jazz do every night. Get a lead, give it up, get behind, come back. And so you're just going to see that every night. And the next step for this Jazz team is to find out how to stabilize that. Part of what has stabilized that the last 10 games has been Walker Kessler. If you look at the last 10 games for this Jazz, let's just do it tonight. You know what? Why? Sorry, guys, this is live. I'm doing it anyway. But what I want to do is just look at the offensive ratings since Walker Kessler has been starting regularly and beat out Jared Vanderbilt. Let's see. So you look right here. Walker Kessler started 110. All right. So just this. So hey, run it, baby. All right. So let's look at offensive rating for the Jazz. Number 6 in the NBA. Pretty great. And this is with Walker Kessler starting. So that's pretty exciting. I didn't expect that because this actually went up since the last time I checked and wrote about it. They were actually around like 10. So the Jazz have actually gone up about 3 or 4 spots in the last week with Walker Kessler starting. That's pretty exciting. Like, that's actually pretty great. If you have like a top 6 offense, you are a really, really good offense. And so having Walker Kessler start and continue play, honestly, I'm a little excited. Pretty awesome. Because, one of the things I have been personally worried about is some of the Jazz's offensive prowess has been because of spread offense and players that were quick enough or like that had the size like Lauri Markkanen or strength like Lauri Markkanen take advantage of mismatches. And I was like, well, does that keep up with Walker Kessler? Heck yeah. It does. But now let's look at the defensive rating. So obviously Jazz are not top 10. 17. Dang, they dropped. And maybe tonight was part of that. But the Jazz, dang it. Anyways, the Jazz were like sitting at number 9 about a week ago. They have now dropped 8 spots to 17. Although I will say, this right here is Walker Kessler. That's pretty exciting when you consider that Utah, in their last 10 games, so the season, they're 3 offensively, 25 defensively. In their last 10, it's about 10 games. In their last 10 games, they now have a number 6 offense, and their defensive rating is now 17. That's pretty awesome. They jumped from 25 to 17 defensively, and they only dropped 3 spots offensively. So that's where you can kind of see a roadmap for this team. You want to be a perennial playoff team. You want to be top 10 in both. Can you get top 10 in offense and defense? And if you want to be a championship contender, can you get top 5 both? The Bulls are number 1 in that space. That's why they're winning games. Okay, yeah. Look at that. Actually, this makes me want to look. Like, who's been good the last 10 games defensively? Phoenix is jumping up. Oklahoma City, look at that. And then, of course, Boston. And then offensively, Portland, number 1. Can you say Damian Lillard? Sacramento, Atlanta. Look at that. That includes tonight. Toronto, interesting. And then the Clippers with Kawhi going bonkers. So, anyways, I don't know if I have a lot else to add tonight. I mean, Jordan Clarkson had a pretty okay 24 points, 3 assists, and then Mike Conley. I think I mentioned him already. I did in the recap on SLC Dunk, but 20 points, 8 rebounds. Mike Conley looks like vintage Mike Conley lately. So fun to watch. Jared Vanderbilt is sticking around this 18-minute mark. 11 rebounds for Vando. 0 points. The touch is just not quite there with him. I think these two right here are being traded almost most definitely. It's going to be a crazy week And then Ochai Agbaji, 24 minutes. Look at this. 3 for 5 from 3, 4 for 6 from the field. It's going to be fun to watch Ochai Agbaji next season. I'm so happy he's getting these minutes. Because honestly, one thing, like we've mentioned, players have to find out what their strengths and weaknesses are, and then that's when they can improve. And you know when the improvement really happens? In the offseason. Right now, Ochai Agbaji is already finding out that he's, you know what? He's a good shooter. He's a really good shooter. For the season, what is he at? This is his rookie year, by the way. And Ochai Agbaji is shooting 39% from 3. And that's on 3.2 attempts a game. That's just going to go up. If he starts starting, you know, he's going to be able to knock those down. Now, what can Ochai Agbaji do now? He can start figuring out how to impact the game more. His athleticism is pretty awesome. There was an outlet pass near the end of the game where Mike Conley passed it to him, and that thing was like, I thought it was a turnover, and he just went up there and grabbed it. And it looked effortless. His athleticism actually, he's one of those guys that's athletic and he makes it look easy. You know, where you think, oh, just everyone, no, sorry, not everyone can just go out and do what he does. That's why he's playing more, and that's why he's getting more and more minutes. And that's why he's not tradable, according to multiple reports, because you don't get athletes that can shoot the ball like that very often. You don't. They just don't grow on trees. And so that's why you want to hold on to someone like Ochai Agbaji, because one thing that I think he can really improve on, and if he does this, then he becomes really exciting. Can he become a really impactful on-ball defender? Can you make him someone that you go put him on their top scorer and it makes their life miserable, you know? And doesn't mean completely shut them down, but can you make them miss 5 more shots than they normally would? You can do something like that, then you impact the game in a massive way. And I think that's one thing he can do. And we've seen him with his twitch. So he's got the physical ability, I think. It's just, is he willing to work in the offseason? Is he willing to go out there and go to those runs that players play and really figure out how to get better? And can he work on that with the Jazz this offseason? Obviously, I'm sure he will, but can he do it? If he can, then the Jazz have another really nice player, because that perimeter defense just needs to get better for Utah. It just does. And so Ochai Agbaji should be a big part of that. And then obviously in this draft, the Jazz are going to draft hopefully athletes that can defend. And the more athletes you have on the floor, the better. I mean, that's the future for this Jazz team, is multiple things. We talk about it every night, but one of the things, and I mentioned it before, can you handle your contracts well? Can you manage all your team's contracts and make sure that you are not overpaying players that you shouldn't be, while also paying players. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickle peppers. Anyways, are you paying the players the right amount, and are you making sure you are not putting yourself in bad positions so you can also bring in new players and play better? And also, are you getting athletes on the floor? You need athletes in this league, especially in the playoffs. You have to have athletes on the floor. If you don't have athletes on the floor, you're not going to win playoff games. You have to have them. Yeah, there are some players that can win with skill and just incredible skill sets. But we saw with the Jazz team last year, they were old, they were unathletic, and the skill and the shooting and things like that drove them to so many wins during the regular season. It wasn't effective in the playoffs because the athleticism that they went up against was just too much multiple times. They couldn't handle it, you know. So anyways, I think that's basically what you're going to see, and I think we're going to see a trade here soon. So it's that time again, guys, to do our nightly Tankathon simulation. Last game, we won the number 2 pick, and the Jazz had the number 14 spot. Look, the Jazz have jumped to 13 with their loss tonight, and you can bet that New Orleans and LA are trying to win every game they can. It's not going to be hard, and Chicago, like we saw, is on, well, they've only won 5 out of their 5. I thought they were doing better, but they're one of the best defenses right now, apparently. And Washington is playing pretty well recently, 7-3 in their last 10. It would be very easy for the Jazz to jump into this range. They just have to do it. Make the trade, Danny. All right, let's see what happens. What happens with the Jazz? Oh, the Jazz don't win. Look at this. NBA trade did. I love Tankathon. Just incredible. But anyways, 5 days, 13 hours. So number 13, according to Tankathon, gets the Jazz Anthony Black. Shooting guard, small forward from Arkansas. He's really fun to watch. He's an interesting player. He's kind of one of those Swiss Army knife guys that can shoot the ball, pass the ball. His passing is actually what really stands out to me. And he's got good size, 6'7". I always want to see what they look like against other NBA players because sometimes it can be deceiving in college how big a player is. Is he truly 6'7"? Otherwise, because that might be really nice. Anyways, no Scoot Henderson this time, guys. I'm sorry. All right, let's give a shout out to our All-Stars tonight. Let's do this. All right, let's give a shout out to Ezekiel Ricibe, the man from down under. See ya, Lexalator. Bill Ford Tough, Alexander Tufts, Jared Chanderbilt, Shantheric, Jorge Arrizaga, mi amigo de abajo, Baby Elliott Matson, Jordan the Goat Bessel, Just Buckets, JB, Zap Watts, TGD, Total Game Domination, Christian House Money to Haas, Tyson Price, The Price is Right, X marks the spot for Zintas, Joshua Hansen, the Danish Destroyer, Austin R. Grant, Editor Extraordinaire, Donald Schooley, schooling all of us, DW to CB, Darren Williams to Carlos Boozer, Patrick Kukubo, the Connoisseur, and Robert Hall of Fame. Guys, if you haven't already, like and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to go sign up for Prize Picks, I would appreciate it. Use promo code HoopsNerd, and they will match up to $100. Guys, trade deadline is coming. It's coming. It's coming fast. The trade rumors are coming. I should have been doing videos on them. There's just not enough time in the day. But anyways, guys, I will talk to you